Hello and welcome to this video on Better Call Saul. We're going to be talking about Season 6, the ending, and the show as a whole. Season 6 was a very enjoyable season. I thought it had some really high highs and some pretty questionable episodes that I don't know we'll get into, but first let's talk about what I liked. First of all, we got to talk about the 3-episode stretch that is Plan and Execution, Point and Shoot, Fun and Games. These 3 episodes wrap up the Better Call Saul storyline extremely well. First off, we got Plan and Execution, which is arguably the best episode of the season and one of the best episodes of the show, if not the best, although I'd probably still give it to Chicanery. Nonetheless, Plan and Execution, we got a very enjoyable, very exciting episode from the first scene to the last. It's really fun to watch Jimmy and Kim's plan in full swing against Howard. Obviously you got the last minute dash to get the photos leading up to their final bit of joy before it blows up in their face, quite literally, because at the end of the episode we got one of the most tense endings in the show with Lalo showing up and then obviously Howard's death out of nowhere. Not only is this a really exhilarating mid-season finale, but also a very satisfying one. Before this episode, Jimmy and Kim were having discussions about Howard and this plan and how it was all going to go down, and they were saying, oh, you know, Howard's going to get back up on his feet after this whole thing went down. But nope, that didn't happen. Now he's dead and they've got to live with this thing for the rest of their lives. This episode then leads into Point and Shoot, which follows up Plan and Execution with a very action-packed, very fun, enjoyable episode. We see the final confrontation between Gus and Lalo. People who have watched Breaking Bad probably know how this is going to go down, but I guess the fun is in how it's going to go down and how exactly is Gus going to get the better of Lalo. All the scenes with Mike were very fun. I quite liked the fact that it was similar to ABQ in Breaking Bad, where he comes up to Jesse and he's talking to him and he's saying, you know, you didn't see any of this, you don't know me, and he does the same with Jimmy and Kim with this thing, so it's kind of hinting at stuff like that in Breaking Bad, which I thought was quite fun. That's what I got out of it. Lastly, we got to mention the title of this episode, Point and Shoot. So point and shoot camera that Lalo's using, and then point and shoot with a gun. It's not just thought up in 5 minutes, and I really appreciate the titles that Vince Gilligan and everyone else comes up with. The following episode is called Fun and Games, which is funny because this episode is anything but fun and games. We see the aftermath of everything that's happened in the previous 2 episodes. The best part of this episode, and my favourite part of this episode, being the Jimmy and Kim breakup scene. Super well done, super well acted, and I think it's extremely realistic to, you know, what would go down in real life. And I think it shows that Better Call Saul doesn't just shine in the action, but it mostly shines in the intimate character work that's going on. It's a very different thing to Breaking Bad, where, you know, you watch Breaking Bad for the action or the flashy shit that's going down, and then you watch Better Call Saul, you switch over to the more sophisticated show where it's way more low-key a lot of the time and all about getting to the heart of what makes these characters tick. This holds true not just for the breakup scene but for the rest of the episode. I really loved the small moment between Mike and Nacho's dad where he tells him about Nacho's suicide. Clearly Mike is giving him some kind of closure, whereas he didn't have any of that, so that was very poignant. And the last thing in this episode is the cut, which basically transforms Jimmy McGill into Saul Goodman. We go right from the devastating breakup to Saul Goodman in bed with a hooker. It's quite a strong contrast, and it's a nice way to lead us into the Breaking Bad timeline. Another episode that I really enjoyed was Rock and a Hard Place. We got to see the demise of Nacho. He commits suicide right after telling the cartel what he really thinks of them. It's quite a thrilling and powerful way to finish off the Nacho storyline. If I remember correctly, this is also the episode with the teaser where we cut back to Nacho's perspective and we lead up to him making the phone call to Mike and we see what he actually says, and I think that is quite a nice bit of storytelling. Those are the episodes that I really liked in Season 6. The rest of Season 6, there are some good bits, but I feel like it's mostly very messy and doesn't quite come together for me. Yes, there are some really nice payoffs, but the way we get there isn't all that memorable. Probably the worst episode in the season, Black and Blue, really not great. We've got the boxing scene with Howard and Jimmy, just felt really out of place. I don't know what they were thinking when they wrote that, and when it actually happened, I couldn't quite believe what I was watching. The other stuff, before we get to plan and execution, axe and grind, hit and run, like, I'm looking at these episodes on IMDb right now, and I don't know, they just don't stick out as being all that amazing. Now it's time to answer the question, what did I think to the last 4 episodes of this show, all being in black and white, finishing off the Gene storyline and the ending of Better Call Saul as a whole? What did I think to it? Well, I thought it was pretty good. I think my main problem with these last 4 episodes is it's just not as engaging as the stuff that was happening before. After the massive payoff that was plan and execution, I was wondering how are they going to top this, and with 4 episodes to go, it wasn't looking good. It's quite fun to see Gene scamming again as Saul Goodman, especially the Nippy episode. I actually really liked that as a standalone thing, but in the context of the season and with it being one of the final 4 episodes, it wasn't anything that we haven't seen before, and it didn't feel like it was building to something that special. The final episode itself was kind of disappointing for me. I just found it to be quite anticlimactic, and the only surprising thing that did happen in it was out of character for Jimmy. Of course, I'm talking about Jimmy's confession right at the very end. Up until this point, we've been changing Jimmy into Saul Goodman. He's been conning a lot. The past few episodes, he's been pulling scams. He pulled a scam on someone with cancer. He almost killed someone with a phone wire. I think it was probably the right decision for him to make, but it just didn't feel earned, and I think they needed something more to make that moment really work. Do I think the last 4 episodes ruined the show? No, I don't think so. I think there's enough quality in Better Call Saul for you to enjoy the whole show. You'll probably get to the last 4 episodes, think what the hell is going on, but I still think you'll have a good time. Season 6 of Better Call Saul is a really exciting yet really messy conclusion to the show, and whilst I do think it has some of the best episodes of the entire show, I do think as a season it doesn't quite come together for me. In the context of the rest of the show, I probably place season 6 around the middle. My favourite is probably season 3, that's the one with chicanery. The last season with Chuck, I really enjoyed that. I think it's really fun, really enjoyable season. Better Call Saul has been a fun time. I'm going to move on from it now. I'd recommend it to anyone. I'd probably give it, the whole show, an 8.5 out of 10.